This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody, welcome to Josh Has Autism.
Hello.
I'm so glad you're here with us.
Yeah.
We missed you last week. It kind of happened that we had to go back down to Florida, and it was just a crazy time, and so we did miss you last week. Sorry for not having a podcast. You've heard us talk before about Chrissy, Dr. Ogilvy, and we went down to load her house up and load her office up and load it into something called a U-Box. It's something new to me. I've never used a U-Box before. So it's through U-Haul.
It's like a pod, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just U-Haul's version of it.
Yeah, it's a little bit cheaper too.
Yeah, smaller too.
So anyway, we did that, and when we were there the last couple days, I packed up Nana's house. Started anyway, and so took care of that. So at any rate, sorry we missed everybody last week, but we're back, and we came back to some very good news. We'll talk about that trip in just a minute.
Okay.
But I want to read something to you that you know of, because I already told you, but I didn't read this to you. So This is from the Social Security Administration. And as anybody that listens to this, you know what's happened. In case somebody out there doesn't know what happened, last February, we got a letter from Social Security saying that Josh no longer has, I put it in quotes, a disability. They don't put it in quotes. I do. So they say that you're not autistic anymore. Last February.
That's news.
Yeah.
That's some news, isn't it?
Right. So, yes, I'm like, fantastic. How did you do that? But, yeah, so that was February, and it has been a huge hassle since then. I mean,
You've been on the phone with people constantly.
And filling out paperwork and getting information to support the fact that, yes, you are autistic.
Yeah, and then getting paperwork back, seemingly without even being looked at, and all this, that, and the other.
Right, so you're talking about where I would have information that I got from a doctor that I would then send in, and they sent it back with no explanation as to why it came back. I still don't know why it came back. Chrissy had written a letter on your behalf. So we had a lot of documentation, but we did from the beginning anyway, so I don't know. Essentially, again, I'll just recap this very briefly. Social Security decided to take autism out of your diagnosis, out of the conversation entirely, where it was just switched around. They viewed that what the doctors that were hired by Social Security, the only thing they had to go by is that your chart said you are learning disabled. So we have since February gathered information and submitted, and we appealed that decision. It went to the next phase of that. There's actually 3. First of all, they say you don't qualify for SSI anymore because you're no longer disabled. Then we submit information. They come back and say, yeah, no, you don't have autism anymore. This is when after that they sent you to the doctors and everything else and said, in our determination, you don't have a disability. So your SSI is going to stop. And so then this phase that we were in right now was the 3rd phase of that, where I gathered the information. I disputed what they had found. I basically told them, you don't have the right or permission to just decide that Josh doesn't have autism.
Yeah.
And so that's when I submitted a bunch of things. Got our congressman involved.
Yeah.
So they just went back and talk to Social Security to see where everything is. Anyway, all of that, it's been a huge hassle. Here's what the letter says. Joshua David King, we are writing to let you know that we have made a decision on your case. After reviewing all the information carefully, we have decided that you are still disabled. Therefore, you do not need a disability hearing. So, woohoo! My little party favors. So, yes. For now, it's over.
Yeah, for now, until next year.
Yeah, probably 2 years.
Yeah.
Yes. With this president, he worked very hard to. If anybody knows, this is not a political statement. This administration, under this president, worked very hard to get people with disabilities kicked off the books.
Yes.
They said if they spend billions now, they will spend multiple.
They will save.
They will save billions more in the long run by doing so, and it's not cool.
Mm-mm.
It's not ethical. It's morally void, so at any rate, it's. I would just encourage anybody else that gets these letters and are going through this, just keep submitting all the documents that you possibly can.
Yeah.
That means, and what that looks like is, we'll talk about you because that's all we can talk about.
Right.
So when you would go to a doctor's appointment, you would have a new psychiatrist. You would have the gene testing done. You would have the TMS therapies for depression. You would have all the medication changes that just went on. From the family doctor to the therapy to the psychiatrist, through the TMS, like I just said. All of that was documented and submitted that you're receiving ongoing treatment. Sometimes where we were falling behind, like I was kind of lagging in this, was because this came right after we moved.
Yeah.
And it was a situation so that we moved here. Psychiatrist, I was in the process of trying to get you into a psychiatrist, getting you the services that you require to thrive. And moving to a new location, they just didn't have the doctors. It wasn't available. It was just so it took time. And in the middle of that is when Social Security. I say that it was February. It actually started in January, but they wanted to kick you off completely in February. So it just happened to be that when we moved to a new location, and not only did you not have those doctors set up, but you weren't clearly set up at the base with the family doctor and all that yet, because it was just a difficult, and then because of COVID, everything kind of wasn't easy just to get into a doctor, and then a lot of things went to telemed then.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm saying all that to say to anybody that's going through this, just be persistent. If they tell you no and you feel like you or your child or somebody that's under your care, your guardian of somebody, just keep on being persistent. Keep on pushing the information that you have. Provide everything you possibly can. Get help that you can. Again, I mentioned that we used our congressmen. Well, that's what they're there. We vote people in. We vote our representatives in. Again, this is not a political statement because it doesn't matter whether you voted for them or you didn't. They serve you.
Yeah.
And it's helpful for them to get involved in a situation like this, because I have no doubt that they really helped the outcome.
Yeah.
Because last week I just got a letter, or I should say an email, from the gentleman that I'm working for at our congressman is Bobby Scott. Our representative is Bobby Scott. And somebody from his office, again, just emailed me last week saying, hey, have you heard anything? I said no, didn't hear anything yet, got something back from them, said, okay, I'm going to touch base with them one more time to see where this is at, see if we can get this pushed along, because at this point it's,
Yeah.
it's been, what, 10 months?
Yeah.
9 months.
Something like that, yeah.
So, anyway, so I would just encourage anybody that's dealing with this, you get these letters, it's upsetting. It feels like, like you've been punched in the stomach because
it feels like the government minimalized me. They made it seem like I was unimportant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not cool. That's not cool at all. It's demeaning, really.
Mm-hmm.
And to say that I don't have something that I've been living with my entire life and will continue to live with my entire life,
Mm-hmm.
that's messed up.
I use other words.
You do. You do.
I won't say on the podcast, but I use many other words.
Yeah.
Yes, and sometimes loudly.
Yeah.
Yes, and it infuriates me, the fact that you deal with autism every day.
Yeah.
You struggle every day, and we're all about you moving forward, about you doing better all the time, about you finding things that work and improve, and there is that goal of you being independent.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if that's going to happen or when that's going to happen, but I'll be the first one, if that happens, I'm going to be the first one to call Social Security and say, hey, guess what?
Yeah.
Thank you for all your help.
Yeah.
We appreciate your support, and he's independent now.
Mm.
I would love to make that phone call.
Yeah. It's not going to happen, I don't think.
I don't
Anytime
know.
soon, at least.
Yes, probably not. Well, probably not soon, but I'm just always hopeful, Josh.
Yeah.
I have a great deal of hope, and that the work that you do, the work that I do on your behalf, the people that you have in your life that are helping you out. Oh, also, speaking of that, we're on the cusp of getting you a life. I don't want to use the word coach because they're not really a
life skills helper.
Yes. I guess coach is probably the right word, but I don't...
Yeah, but it's almost... Yeah.
Well, because this person will come in the house,
Mm-hmm.
help you to get on track. All the things that we've been talking about all along that we tried to set up in Florida and they didn't have, and they do here.
Yeah.
And your psychiatrist knows the agency and is helping us to work with the agency to get that done for you. Cool. And here's the bottom line. I'm your mom, so a lot of times what I say to you just kind of goes one in one ear and out the other, because I'm your mom. You hear this from a professional. You hear something from somebody else that's trained in this. You have, maybe it'll stick. They're trained. They are going to be better at it than I am. Just to help you to see things that you can, working with your patterns that are so important to you, to get on track and stay on track independently.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Okay.
It's not about whether we live together or not. It's whether you can do these things more independently,
without having to be reminded and stuff.
And prompted and directed and all
Yeah.
that stuff all the time. Right. So, so that's in the works too. So as far as you go and your care goes, this has been a really good week.
Yeah.
It's just such a relief.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was a emotional undertaking.
Yeah.
That I don't wish this on anybody else. But I will just encourage anybody out there that's listening, if you're in this same boat, if you are and you need any help, email me, please. Go to my website, sonyaking.com, and you can get an email to me that way. and I can help you to,
figure out where to
take
go.
some steps. Yeah, that we took, and yeah. So I'm relieved about that. I'm relieved that you're getting a life coach.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Anything else you want to say about that? Because that's what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Was what upset me so bad about them just saying that you no longer have a disability. That.
Yeah. I get it. I don't always understand what you go through. I freely admit that.
Oh.
But.
What?
Go ahead.
Yeah. No. I'm not talking about how I feel about how I went with this. I'm saying that on your behalf.
Right.
I was just.
You were furious.
I was furious because.
Flames on the side.
Flames. That
Clue reference.
Yes. The movie Clue. It's one of my favorites. Yes, because who are they to just, diminish and deny the.
What's my reality?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So on your behalf,
yeah.
It's like that the mama bear came out. Yes. So, okay, good. We got that. Whew. Number 5. This last week was difficult for you. It was very difficult for me, but there was one point that I want to ask you about.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows that's been listening as well that Dr. Ogilvy has been your support system and has taught you and helped you to become, in great part, the adult that you are, and even got you to a point where you were a mentor for
others on the spectrum.
You would teach some classes with her.
Yeah.
And it always went so well.
Yeah.
And
sometimes she would even back off and I'd just teach the whole class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it was really cool.
Yeah. And she helped you to see that you could do that.
Yeah.
And she could help you to see that the difference that you make for the people you were teaching. I mean, it was a lot of times it was middle school.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was pretty cool for them to see you and you're teaching and you're speaking and you're a person that knows from experience.
Yeah, so I can say these things from a position of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And explain it in a way that they can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something that Chrissy, not necessarily that she couldn't do, but that she has experience, yes, but not necessarily from our perspective.
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so, just kind of in a nutshell, so Chrissy had to be transported up to Boston. She's still in the hospital there. She's had a couple surgeries. She's got a autoimmune disease that doctors cannot figure out because nobody else that they've ever seen has the same exact symptoms. They don't know exactly what's happening. But
and it's kicking her butt.
Well, she's working hard, but she is paralyzed, and the chances of her going back to Florida are slim. So she has a house, and she got a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I went down and met a couple of other, mainly parents of other kids that she's helped.
Yeah.
And we loaded up a couple of these U-boxes all together and emptied out the house. So that was done. The next day, what you and I didn't realize, which I just didn't think about it, was that her office needed to be packed up and loaded up.
Yeah.
And sent up there in the U-boxes as well.
Yeah.
And that was just you and I doing that.
Yeah.
And we got to the office, and it was a very difficult, it was uncomfortable, and it was sad, and it was emotional.
It was just us. It was just us there, too.
Yeah.
For this one.
Mm-hmm.
Not that the rest of the people that were helping us out the day before weren't there or anything. It was just, or weren't available to help us or anything like that. It was just that we were the only ones that were there. There was no...
Well, they couldn't. Nobody could help us out. But it was just you and I in it's a Center for Autism and Related Disabilities. And you were in this office. We were in her office.
Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed right away is that you felt that so deeply, and you were sad, and you had to... She has this really cool library right off of her office that has these...
reclining chairs.
Yes.
They're really nice.
Yes. And you had to go in there and just...
sit down for a little.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just because it was the library either.
Yeah. Yeah, but you had to go gather your thoughts and get yourself together.
Yeah.
And because I have to say that's one of the most difficult things that I've done in a long time.
Mm.
So as we're packing, we see that there's a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Then there's a master's degree.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And then we go to pack and there's this doctorate degree.
Yeah.
We're like, whoa. And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's in this wood. Oh my gosh. The framed, it's just beautiful.
Diploma's pretty cool too.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's just awesome.
Even had her tassel.
Mm-hmm. And the thing that really struck me about that is that it just seems like when we were going through all of that, I can have all my emotions. It's not about me. None of that is about me.
Right.
Yet I think that you have said too, it just seems like it's not fair.
Yeah. That
it just doesn't, what's the purpose? And that's not up to me to get to that point. But sometimes things happen and those thoughts just,
Yeah.
or I think are natural. Like, what's the point of this? Why did this happen? What if things work for the highest good, for an individual and for the whole, where does that fit in this? And I have to say, I'm confused by all of that right now.
Mm.
I don't have the answer. And while we're there in her office, this life that she created down here, and what really got to me is that she lived a life for people on the autism spectrum.
Yeah.
It seems like it.
They were her kids.
Yes. Yes.
We were her kids.
Yes. And it seems like almost every waking moment, I think, was about that. If it wasn't about that, it was Jimmy Buffett. But when we were there in her office, it just seemed like, how do you take a life that's so well lived? How do you take...
how do you... I think your words were, how do you quantify this?
Yes. It's exactly what I said. That you decide, this person that made such a difference to so many lives, so many families.
Yeah.
And
she created so many different paperwork and stuff like that for like people on the spectrum that would help them out.
Uh-huh. Right.
Like, she made different games. She made all kinds of different things.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so for it to come down to how many boxes do we need? We need to get more bubble wrap.
Yeah.
It was a very difficult undertaking. And
emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it hurt to do that, and a big part is that, she doesn't want to not be there. She wants to be there doing this.
Right.
Not
the packing up, but the...
Right, she wants to be there in her office with her kiddos.
Yeah.
Making a difference.
Yeah.
What she's done for countless years now.
Excuse me.
And so,
yeah.
Anyway, I guess she's been in Pensacola there for, 10 years, I think.
Something like that,
mm-hmm. Yeah. And anyway, you had a really difficult time being there.
Yeah.
And you had to go into the library and lay back in one of those recliners and just get yourself together.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of you because you helped to get this together and do this for her, even though it's the last thing you wanted to do.
Yeah. I mean, she's been such an influence in our lives that this is almost literally the least I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be able to do more.
Mm-hmm. Well, driving down there and packing up the house, it was like a 3 day from morning, till time to go
Yeah.
for dinner time, really. It just was an all 3 day undertaking.
Yeah.
But you...
And honestly, I know it was a late thing, if I could find the right words, I was asked the night before we left if I could do this, because it was an unexpected thing.
So what happened is I was planning on going down there like this weekend or next weekend, and during the week right now we watch the kids. I watch the kids. And your sister went and just had a few days off in a row. And I'm like, whoa, we got to go now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have the kids for a number of days in a row here. I need to go.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was impressed by that you were able to gather your stuff together and go with only 1 day's notice.
Yeah, only a few hours, if that, actually. No?
It was a day before, and...
I thought it was that night, and then we left the next morning.
Yes.
Okay.
So, anyway, I'm proud of you, the way that you were able to process that. Now, you slept on the way down, which makes sense to me, because I mean, how else would you deal with that? If something came up to you, something came up and you didn't have the processing time that you needed, sleeping was the best thing for you to be able to do.
Yeah.
If you couldn't have done that, what can you do to help yourself through a situation like that?
Where it's unexpected?
Yes, right.
Try and keep as much of a schedule as I can, as normal. Which, for me, usually includes reading. Which I did that a fair amount.
You did that until you fell asleep.
Yeah. And by doing that, it helped. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's a 15-hour drive.
Yeah.
15 hours. So it's a long freaking trip. But it was actually good for you. It was good that it took so long, because you had time just to relax, to sleep, to read, to not have any worries about anything.
Right.
So I think that is what helped you so that when it was time for us to go into her home and then load the boxes up,
right.
That you were able to function. Otherwise, if I just said, boom, we got to do this, and boom, you got to do this, you're going to be like, nope.
Yeah. Yeah. And...
yeah, it's funny, because you were even wearing a shirt that had Snoopy on it, and you said, nope.
Not today.
Not today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, So one of the no, I guess one of the interesting things is that I directed how to pack everything in the U boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys were shocked at how well I was doing that.
Yes. So yes, you did it. You did that, and we brought boxes out to the U boxes,
Mm-hmm.
and with the U boxes, they deliver them and they just sit them right in the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have those delivered, you can tell them where you want the door to be, and so that was they make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
So yes, and then the one U box, I warned Chrissy already. I said, look, when your brother or your uncles or whoever it is that's going to be opening this box A,
Mm-hmm.
beware. Just open it very carefully, because it is. I said Josh tried to put stuff in there with bungee cords to hold it back as best he could, but
Yeah.
boy, this is packed.
Yeah.
And
it was like a full Tetris board.
Yeah.
Usually in Tetris, though,
Mhm.
whenever you get a full line, it erases that line.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine this all the way up.
Right.
And that's how it was, but in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually worked out really well, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes. She had some wonderful, like I said, parents, a couple neighbors. Fortunately, there was a neighbor that I found out he had been for the past few years, has worked at the autism camp
Yeah.
in the summer, which is
Cool.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
And also, when she moved in, she would help to tutor him.
Yeah.
So he had some moments of upset in the house, because he said, yeah, I would come up and I was just little and I didn't understand something, and she would tutor me. And he
Yeah.
was like pointing to where they would sit and do this.
Yeah.
And it was hard for him. He goes, this is weird.
Yeah.
So everybody had their moments of, wait, this life was, the feeling of this life was supposed to still be happening here. What happened?
Yeah.
Yes, so you packed it. You did a wonderful job. And Chrissy said, about some things that being packed. I said to her, look, I don't know. Let's just keep our fingers crossed that nothing's broken. But I took extra care in those things that mattered to her. She has this awesome statue that's autism with the pieces and the kids, and it's just awesome. And that, and then the diplomas and some other things that like that are just
they're special and important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we hope everybody, if you send out some positive vibes, that this stuff gets up there in one piece. That would be awesome. Yeah, need all the positive mojo there.
Yeah. Let alone for Chrissy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes, absolutely. If you're anybody out there listening, if you're inclined to pray, if you could send some for her, if you send healing energy, if you could do that.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you do to help her to get through this and
be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start to heal from this, and for them to figure out exactly what it is and how best to help. And but I would like a total healing. That's what I'd like.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else were we going to talk about?
I think those are the only things for this week, actually.
Okay. The only other thing that has come up that we'll just end on this is that you have decided to go to a community college.
Yeah.
That was approved. It looks like you're going to go for social science.
Yes.
And
then I'm actually going to be calling the colleges today.
They're closed today.
Oh.
Well, today, because everybody's listening to this. We're doing this on Veterans Day.
Okay.
It's Wednesday. The podcast goes out tomorrow.
Yeah.
So everything is shut down today. You can call tomorrow.
Okay.
But Yes. So that's gonna be great and be on your way. They just want you to find out there's 2 community colleges you can choose from. You're gonna contact those, find out the information.
Yeah.
And then they're sending us paperwork.
Yeah.
To follow up on that. So that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So a lot of different emotions this week.
Yeah. Good and sad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it felt kind of disheartening, and otherwise it's just I'm elated.
Yeah.
That you got this letter from Social Security.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It overall though.
Mm-hmm.
It's just exhausting.
I'm wiped out, aren't you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because after you helped pack, we did Chrissy's.
Mm-hmm.
I for 2 days solid packed Nana's house.
Yeah. And I helped a bit with that, but I was wiped out.
You were just too wiped out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. You were just too wiped out. But got a lot of stuff packed, and we go to closing on our house November 30th.
Oh, cool.
And then I don't know if I said this before or not, but the people that are selling, that live there now, that own the house, they're buying a house in Yorktown, and the person they're buying it from is an Australian military, and they're getting orders, but they don't know exactly when their orders happen.
Yeah.
So we have this arrangement where it happens a lot from what I understand, but so we go to closing, so the house is ours as of November 30th, but they're renting it from us until their house is available.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's going to be December 14th.
Okay.
Which is very cool because we'll be in there for Christmas, right?
Yeah.
But what's happening is Nana's house is also going up for sale. So I'm going to have to go back down there again, that 15 hours. The 15 hours, one more time. One more time. Go down there, help pack stuff up, and then we're figuring out how to load whatever. But then they, and you know this, but they are going to stay with us until they find a home that they want to buy, or they decide to stay there, but then they're going to have to put additions onto the house.
There being our house.
Our house.
Yeah. There
being our house. Say it, because I don't know what I said.
You said they would be going there and possibly building an addition.
Oh, right. When they leave Florida, they're going to be living at our new house.
Yes.
And at that point, then, the decision will be made whether they find a small house close by, they want to do that, or are they going to put an addition onto our new house.
Yeah.
So it's separate. It'd be like a mother-in-law suite kind of thing. So it's separate.
We've done that before.
Yep. So then it's kind of nice that they would be so close.
Yeah.
I think. that has to be very good and not so much. It just depends, I guess, right?
Yeah.
We'll see. But it's separate. That's super important that it's separate. But so anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on. And going back down there, I think that's something that you can let me know if you're up to that or not.
Okay.
We'll just come to that as we get closer.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I'm exhausted. You're exhausted, and we did a lot of we got a lot of good stuff accomplished this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm proud of you. It was hard.
Yeah.
You doing what you did. It was hard. I could tell that it was hard, and you did a very good job of regulating, and finding your space when you needed it, and then coming back when you were able to interact and function. So I was really impressed with how you handled that, because it wasn't just the normal sensory overload that you experience. This had the emotional drain as well.
Right.
And so I was really impressed that, and what we'll just leave on this, but what I saw you do that I think might be helpful for others to realize is that you you engage, and then you have to have your space to pull back.
Yeah.
And so how we did that, what that looked like for us, was for you to do the things I needed help with,
Mm-hmm.
and then for you to go to that recliner,
Mm-hmm.
or walk around,
Yeah.
and just not have to answer any questions,
Right.
not have to make any decisions, not have to help me with anything.
Right.
I would continue to do things there, but you just needed that space.
Yeah.
And then I didn't ask you to come back. You would just
Come back
make
to
your way
help.
back
Yeah.
over. And when you were there, we would continue.
Yeah.
And that is the pattern that we had when we were there at Chrissy's office.
Right. And afterwards, at helping you with Nana's. But with all that said, I know that for most of my life, I'm given a time frame as to for like you asked me, would a half hour be okay for you to settle down and then come back?
Mm-hmm.
And that works.
Mm-hmm. Because you like that because it's concrete.
Yes.
Right.
And not only is it concrete, it also makes it so that I can set an alarm to remind myself, hey, I need to go back out here and help some more.
Mm-hmm. And something that we started with when you were little, it was very difficult for you to make decisions. It was like it just feels too big, too overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
There's too many decisions all at once, and you can't.
Even restaurants. Even going to restaurants, I would almost flip out or whatever, just because there was so many different options for me to choose from.
Right. And so we came. Yes, it's exactly why I brought that up, because restaurants, and let's just say that you were going to buy something from the store.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell you, this is what time it is now. You have until this time. And if a decision is not made by that time, then we can come back maybe tomorrow and you can look again.
Right.
But I would give you a time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And
it would stress me out, but it would... Go ahead.
Well, in the beginning, yeah, it was very difficult.
Yeah.
But we could spend hours with you sitting there looking, picture this. Picture this. Let's just say that somebody's standing in front of the candy aisle. And there's all these bright colors. There's all these different flavors. There's all these different experiences.
Right.
And what are you going to choose? And you would stand there not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
So I would talk to you about what are you in the mood for?
Yeah.
What kind of, some things are chewy.
Mm-hmm.
Chocolate's just going to kind of melt and it's delicious.
Yeah.
But it's different than if you're going to choose a gummy something.
Yeah. And even then, with the chocolates, there's milk chocolate, dark chocolate, and white chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes with nuts, sometimes without, sometimes with caramel.
Right.
Yeah.
So it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
So what we would do is sometimes would go. So when we would shop, we would go by there, and then I would tell you that we're going to come back there. So you're walking by. This is what's there. This is everything that's there. So when I'm going to do what I need to do here, and then we're going to come back. And when we're here, you have 5 minutes to choose.
Yes.
Or 10 minutes, or 15 if it was in toys or something, and it was,
right.
And it was very helpful. Now I have to say, sometimes distressing, because if you couldn't make a decision, it was, as your mom, I don't want you to be upset.
Right. But you had given a time limit.
Yes. And I needed for you to begin to work in time constraints.
Yes.
And so when we would go to a restaurant, it took a long time for you to understand that you could change. You could not have something added.
Right. Right.
So
like what's written there is not like you can substitute or you can take something out of it.
And that was really hard for you to understand because it was in writing.
Yeah.
It was on the menu.
Yeah.
How could it possibly be different than what's written here?
Yeah.
Yes, that took a long time.
Yeah.
And what happens now is, I'll give you an example of salad. When you eat salad, when we go out to eat, we're eating at home, you're going to eat lettuce, cheese, and croutons.
Yeah.
Without dressing.
Without dressing, yeah.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
But in a restaurant,
yeah.
you didn't. It was so hard for you to comprehend that. Well, you could take tomatoes off of it, but it says it has tomatoes.
Yeah.
How do you take them off? Well, you just don't put them on there.
Yeah,
Well,
but it says it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But to this day, if the tomato was on there,
it leaves this slimy residue.
You're not going to eat it. So you can't have a salad that's like in this bowl that's mixed for everybody else,
right.
and then you pick out what's okay with you.
Right. I can't do it.
Mm-mm. It's got to be a separate salad made for you before all that stuff is added. Yeah. So it's part of that. It was a huge effort on your part to be able to understand that even though this is the way it is, it can be different. That was huge.
And once it occurred to me that it could be like that, it was like an aha moment, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. So there was one time, and I remember it. We were at, and I say I remember it and I forget the restaurant. I think it was Outback. And you were getting some noodly stuff with Alfredo. Mm-hmm. And this one, it had chicken and it had shrimp. Mm-hmm. It was like this. Maybe it was Olive Garden.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
And it was the first, as I remember this. I don't remember the exact restaurant, but I remember the situation where you said to, and we had this routine too. We would all sit down, and we would send the waitress away once. And then if she came back, we're all ready, but you're not ready, we would send her away again. When she would come back on the third time, we would say, we're going to put in an order, and we might have to put in his order after. Mm-hmm. And we did that sometimes.
Yeah.
And that seemed to work for you.
Yeah.
It wasn't upsetting that we went ahead with something. It was that you weren't ready, so you weren't forced to do this. And once again, if you didn't order anything and it was time to go, then, you could have a sandwich at home.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you never starved to death. But anyway, I remember...
I'm still here.
You're still here, so yeah. But anyway, I remember this, that we were in this restaurant, and it was like a linguine kind of thing with Alfredo. It came with chicken and it came with shrimp. And you're like me, like you don't want to see a shrimp.
Yeah.
That's just, to me, that's just gross. And anyway, you said to the waitress, I don't want the shrimp in there. And she said, okay, no shrimp. And I was just like looking at you. Like I probably cried like a baby because, I mean, it was just a huge step.
Yeah.
And
I bet I because I don't remember it, I bet it was like, well, yeah, it just makes sense. And whenever you ask me about it, I'm guessing.
When it clicks, it clicks.
Yeah.
And I don't have answers until you get to that point, other than just being consistent.
Yeah.
And always trying to make sure that you're safe.
Yeah.
In the process of something.
Yeah.
So it might not be comfortable for you, but telling you what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Telling you that if you can't do this, then again, getting a sandwich at home.
Yeah.
If you can't make a decision here, you're still going to be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was important to give you the details ahead of time, and then allow you to have time. But then the time limits it just became huge.
Yeah. Yeah. How did we get onto this topic?
I don't know. I think it was because how you've developed the ability to regulate yourself.
That's it, yeah.
And we were down there in a very stressful situation, and what you did was recognize when you needed to pull back and just
okay,
and then come back again. And I wanted to make a point of that this isn't just something that
I can do automatically. This was a learned response.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I wanted to make a point of that so that anybody out there listening and they're in the midst of this, it can, like you just said, it's something that can be learned. It's something that can get better.
Yeah.
The meltdowns and the shutdowns and the screeching, the fits.
Yeah.
It can get better. And, I just wanted to make a point of that and to say, we were there, you were there, and now in this most stressful situation, you were able to put it in action.
Yeah.
Which has been something in your life has been difficult. Something that you learn to put it into real time has been difficult, but you did it.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
Yeah. So,
and thank you for putting up with me.
well, you're welcome. I love you, man.
Love you too.
Everybody, thank you for listening to us today and hanging out with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you give us 5-star reviews, that helps because
it boosts our popularity.
Yep. So people can see us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. People. Yeah. I'm learning. So yes. Yep. That helps out a lot. If you have any requests, please send them to us. We really enjoy the emails we get from people. It means a lot to us.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And go to sonyaking.com, SONYAKING. You can find the podcast, the blog. You can find some past podcasts and blogs, and you can also email us that way. But you can listen to us all over the place. I don't even have a list, but
YouTube.
They all go out there. Yeah, it's really weird too because YouTube, everything goes up on Thursdays, but things have been kind of weird. So like a few days later, your dad will get a message saying it went up on YouTube. I'm like, what? It just went up? Like, it doesn't make sense. So everything gets posted on Thursdays, except for last week because we didn't do one. But they go up on Thursdays, and then we just kind of keep our fingers crossed that it's posted right away. But anyway. So everybody, I hope that you're doing well. And a lot of crazy things going on in the world out there in the United States with this election. So remember to take some deep breaths and. Just keep in mind, regardless of who somebody voted for, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And deep breaths. Take care of yourself. Give yourself some time to
de-stress.
Whether it's meditation or what. Just just do it. One thing that I do, that I'll just say, is that if you put your fingertips together, it doesn't matter if you have long fingernails or not, but you put your fingertips together and your thumb together, right? So they're all together, and just push them, not hard so you don't hurt yourself, but it's a grounding technique. It kind of brings the circuitry all the way around, like smooth, and so you can do that no matter who you're standing in front of, no matter what you're doing. Josh, if you're ever giving a speech and you're feeling kind of overwhelmed, do this. Nobody's going to know what you're doing.
Okay. Well, there is a term for that. It's called templing your fingers.
And it helps to ground you and to be more comfortable. So you're absolutely right. Yeah. So anyway, just a little something if you're feeling overwhelmed by things out there.
Yeah.
As Josh says, temple your fingertips.
Yeah.
Do it. All right, everybody. Hugs and kisses to all of you out there because it's a stressful time.
Yeah.
And we will talk next week. Love you.
Bye.